Alright, so welcome back here, ladies and gentlemen. And in the last lesson, we went ahead and actually UV mapped and textured our eyes as well as our wire here. Now, what I want to go ahead and do here is I'm not necessarily going to show you how to go ahead and set up a basic HDRI lighting scene. I'm simply just going to go ahead and reuse one that I tend to use a lot in production, and I'll just give you a general overview here of the scene. And we're simply just going to go ahead and adjust some of the lights, place some of the lights a little bit better so that we get at least a decent rendering quality here. So the first thing that we want to go ahead and do here is we definitely don't need this background, and you can see that it's just basically a polygon cylinder that I've extruded up and changed a little bit along with 3 different V-Ray lights. We also have some render layers, and I'll give you the HDRI scene that I use. You'll just have to supply your own HDRI image to go ahead and plug into the environment map. Okay, so like I said, first thing that we don't need here is we can definitely go ahead and get rid of what is our background here. So we'll just, with it selected, create a new layer, and we'll just go ahead and turn that layer off. We also imported our shot cam. So let's go in here and take a look through our shot cam here, and we're simply just going to go ahead and adjust our view a little bit so that our arm isn't actually in the scene, and we can probably just go ahead and also put those on their own layer and turn them off since we don't necessarily need them. Okay, and that's going to be fine right there. The important thing that you have to take a look here and really understand is what is our render layers. We obviously have an ambient occlusion layer, and I want to go ahead and add the entire Bender model to that layer as well so I can get the ambient occlusion in there. So with it selected, I'm just going to go ahead and hit add selected to layer. So now it's going to add it to the ambient occlusion layer. Our ambient occlusion material is basically just going to be a V-Ray dirt material, as you can see here. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, and I'm just doing this in the outliner. I don't really have to show this on the screen because it's just simply just the outliner, and I'm just simply selecting the model here. So with it selected, I'll go ahead and add that on the ambient occlusion layer, and I want to go ahead here and switch back to my main color layer, which is going to be the master beauty color. Okay, so let's go ahead and first create our material for Bender here, and we're going to need 2 specific materials. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and create 2 different V-Ray materials here. Let me go ahead and maximize my workspace, and I want a shiny metal material, but I don't want it to be an extreme chrome material. It can't be that realistic, so it has to be somewhat stylized here. So we'll just select one, hit Control A to open up the attribute editor of that material. We're going to turn it somewhat dark, turn the reflection color here to white, but we don't want the amount to be that heavy. We want it to be something like maybe 0.187 should be fine. Okay, and we're simply going to use the same sort of setup here for the other one. But the main key here is, the main goal is to basically turn these reflection subdivisions up to probably 20. I mean, that's going to give us a very smooth reflection whenever we go to render this. So let's go ahead here and do the same thing for our other material. We're going to turn this really dark, turn the reflection to white. 0.187 again should be fine. And you can see that this is going to be a little bit darker than what the base color is. Okay, so we'll turn the reflection subdivisions up here as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and select our Bender model, the pieces that we need, and we know for sure they're going to be turned this basic color. So we'll go ahead and apply this. Okay, and we're also going to need a white material here, just a basic white material. So I'll just go ahead and select the teeth, try to deselect everything else here. Okay, and I'm just going to use a basic white material here, And we will go ahead here and take this second material, apply it to the head separator. Okay. And we're also going to apply this to the inserts that we created in ZBrush. Here. Okay. Take that first material and apply that to the rest of Blender here. Making sure that we try to stay inside our placement that we had here. And those eyes look fine, but I think I want to go ahead here and maybe change it a little bit more. So we'll just go ahead here and rotate this a little bit more downward. And this one just maybe a little bit more upward. And that really gives them a sort of goofy look. Okay, so now that we have the basic material set up, I need to go ahead and create one for that end plug. So we'll just go ahead and create another V-Ray material, and you can see where the scene here is, you know, fairly simple. So we'll just go ahead and turn this black, turn the reflection to white, just turn the amount on, turn the roughness all, I'd say about halfway up, the subdivisions up a little bit, and this will give us a very rough material when we go to render here. Okay, just making sure that that's going to be fine, and I need to go ahead and add our material here to that as well. So just jump back into the hypershade real quick, graph it, select what we need to select here. I'll just have to zoom in, and we'll go ahead and apply that. And now that we have all of our textures basically set up there, I want to go ahead and rotate here just a little bit. So we'll just go ahead and select everything here, just deselect the body. I'll go ahead and group this, center our pivot, and we'll just simply rotate this. Okay, just so that we can at least see what we're doing here. Okay, and that looks fine. Okay, so let's go ahead here into our render settings, and let me go ahead and just pull over here, and I'll go ahead and pause here just so that you guys can take a look at some of my render settings. The only thing that's really different here is just the environment tab that I've simply overridden, set in my own GI texture, which is a custom HDRI image. Your reflection texture should, you know, typically be white, whitish, maybe gray. Gray will really work probably a little bit better. But the background should definitely be black. I didn't really change any of the color mapping, camera, and stuff like that. So the main part right here is just making sure that you have your anti-aliasing filter on. Definitely turn that up to 4. Your indirect illumination, if you use an HDRI, you definitely have to turn on the global illumination. If you don't, you then won't get the lighting information from that image. Okay, under our settings tab, I didn't really change anything. Same with our translator tab. But the main part here is our render elements, because these are really going to pay off whenever we go to actually composite in the next lesson inside of Photoshop. So we have to think to ourselves, well, what exactly do we need in terms of being able to composite inside of Photoshop? We don't need a V-Ray SSS pass because there's no subsurface scattering in the scene. So we can simply just go ahead and remove that. We will need a diffuse, a GI pass. We'll definitely need a shadow pass, a specular pass, and a Z-depth pass. But I also want to go ahead here and add a couple different or a couple more passes here. I want to add a reflection pass, a refraction pass. I also want to add a self-illumination pass. Other than that, I think we're probably okay. I probably really don't even need a self-illumination pass here, so we can just go ahead and add these refraction and reflection passes to us. And this should give us the ability to really go ahead and crank out the images that we actually need. Okay, so with all that said here, I'm going to go ahead and render, and I'm going to use the V-Ray frame buffer here. But you can also see where I'm going to render out at a very large image. This is going to be 3250 by 1828, and it's going to make it easier for myself to go ahead and actually composite all those images inside of Photoshop, so I can really see what I'm doing and really take a focus on the actual detail of the image. So with all that said, and you can see that I'm going to be using the V-Ray frame buffer. With all that said here, I'm going to go ahead and hit the render button, and then in the next lesson I'll have all the images actually rendered out. You know what, let's come in here and let's take and set up our lighting a little bit better here. So let's just go into our perspective cam, and we're just going to go ahead here and just adjust some of our lights so we can make sure that we're going to have it all set up correctly. So let's select this first light, hit A to go into the light shape. 7.3 might be a little bit high in terms of the intensity, so let's just jump this down to something like 4. And let's go ahead and place this a little bit better here. Just rotate that a little bit, just making sure that that's actually going to hit Bender. On this side one, I'm going to go ahead here and maybe turn this a little bit blue, and just turn the intensity down a lot. Same thing here with the one on the right. 8's probably good, and white's probably going to be fine here. But you can see where that light's not actually going to hit Bender. So I just want to go ahead and rotate that here. And that doesn't look like it's actually going to hit Bender. So right there should be fine. So let's go into our shot cam now. And I think that's going to be fine here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to hit render, and then in the next lesson we'll go ahead and come back, and then we'll take all of our images into Photoshop and begin our compositing work for the overall final image. So come on back.